Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Showing Up with Sarah. And I wanted to do an extension of the first episode where I shared about my history and who I am. But I decided that I'm going to just jump around because that's what I always do. And I want to talk to you guys about, as like a follow up of the Red Table Talk, I got a lot of such great feedback after it aired this week on Facebook. Red Tabletop, for those of you who don't know, is a Facebook show hosted by Jada Pinkett Smith, her daughter Willow Smith, and then Jada's mom, Adrienne Norris. And this episode was about heartbreak.
We tend to really feel what other people need and then morph ourselves in ways so we get love.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the very thing that will make a relationship not work, because who you say you are and who you really are is not the same, and that eventually bites you in the relationship.
So are you saying she's not being true to who she really is?
She's more
In order
true
to-
to the other person
Yeah,
than
than
to
to
herself.
herself.
You start putting yourself further and further back, and then who you are doesn't really come to play. And it becomes more and more about him. And then, of course, he goes, well, I'm not feeling it, right? Because what he isn't feeling is who he thought you were in the first place, who you no longer are because you've accommodated, you've morphed.
And I will quickly tell you how it even went down, right? So I'm on their mailing list, and I will randomly get emails from a producer, I guess, just asking like, hey, what's the question you'd ask this person if you got to, whatever. And so I had just, I guess for like the 18th time, been dumped by the guy that I was seeing. And we had, pretty much like just had that communication. And Saturday night, I look at my email and it's like 8 o'clock Saturday night. And I remember this specifically because I decided that I was not going to do anything that entire day, and I wasn't even going to get dressed. I literally was spending the whole day wrapped up in my comforter, naked, laying on my couch, doing nothing, moping around. And I decided to check my email because I hadn't checked it the whole day. And I see that I have an email from Red Table Talk. Hey, Sarah, we are curious if you've ever experienced heartache, which I was like, yeah, for sure, I 100% have. And then an hour and a half later, I get a call from someone. Her name was Hope. And she's like, hey, can I talk to you about it? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I felt so bad because I hadn't even really like processed it or dealt with it myself. And I started crying on this poor young lady, but such a professional. And the next day I had to record kind of like an intro. And then the next day a Zoom kit showed up, this giant Zoom thing. And then the next day, it was Tuesday, and we filmed it. And it was so weird because some of my friends were like, what was it like talking to Jada? And I'm like, I mean, I felt like I didn't, because I had to talk into like the camera the whole time. And I could see on the screen that they were talking here, but I couldn't look at them at all. So it was interesting. And it's crazy the amount of work and effort that goes into the whole thing, especially just given from me. I ended up being on the show, I think, for like 4 minutes. I don't even know if it was that much. I tried to post the unedited version of it because I had, like, if this was the camera and everything, I had my phone, you can't see it, like right off to the side, filming me talking. And the original content is about 15 minutes long of us discussing stuff, which I wish I was able to post. But because Facebook owns Instagram, they like immediately somehow figured out that I was trying to post that onto my IGTV, and they took it down. But I wanted to share it with you guys because the extended advice and information that Michaela ended up giving me was really great. And at one point she called me a love amoeba about how I kind of conform myself. And I asked the group, I shared with them, I've been single for a decade now. And while all of your platitudes are great, they don't, after this much time, they don't really serve me that well, you know? Which I think is reality. It's reality for so many people. I've talked in the past about how people talk to single people. Oh, you just have to get back out there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I definitely was not out there at all. You have to like keep working on yourself. Okay, like I guess I haven't worked on myself enough. I guess there's some level I haven't hit. Um, it's the way that people talk to single people is so chock full of scarcity and lacking, and I need to get into that in a different episode because I'm about to get on a rant. But um I think that I mentioned that, and I was just like, in my mind, I'm very emotional and logical. I said, what if someone decided to try out for a basketball team every year for 10 years and they never made the team? At some point, you just aren't made for basketball. Can I assume the same applies here? And Adrienne Norris, Gammy, just kind of laughed, and she's like, "Girl, I've been married 4 times, and I'm never gonna give up, you know." And the other great thing that Michaela shared with me was that this is technically guy number one that I have set boundaries with, or attempted to set boundaries with, that I've been more honest with. So I'm pretty much starting, and it's funny because so many of my friends have said similar things, and for some reason, and I know that you can resonate with this. For some reason, Michaela saying it gave me like this freedom. Like, oh, okay. Like, I don't feel that need to like give up anymore because, like, oh, I have so much time in front of me. I'm like just starting, right? And so I've thought about that a lot because the backstory that you guys don't necessarily know is that I have spent not only just this past year, calendar year, but also non-calendar year. I don't know what that's called. Year in day count. And I have spent so much time this year working on myself. I spent so much time in the past decade working on myself, in the past 5 years, in the past, like, I mean, just like it's insane. And so to get to that point felt a little, is there a word for like emasculating? It was hard to open up about this because in my head I'm like, girl, you've grown so much, you can't go on TV and be like, I'm devastated. But of course, knowing me, I got on there and I was just like right, so I emasculated myself. But anyway, so that's the backstory, right? I've done so much work on my own. And I think that we look at the moments that we actually walk through the gate, which is what I was saying about Michaela. I felt like she said something and it was like she opened the gate for me and I was able to walk through. And I know that she didn't just say suddenly the right thing and now suddenly, oh my goodness, I don't have to give up on love. The fact is that all of the work I have done in my entire life, in the past 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, calendar year, um, has led to that moment to be able to, when the gate is open, actually walk through. Because the truth is that for so many of us, and I've done it so many times, and all of you have probably done it, where the gate is opened and then we like reach and just kind of slowly close it and then lock it, and then we go, why is it always locked around here? And I say it with a laugh because it sounds so silly, but it happens all of the time. We limit ourselves, and it's not bad. I want you to understand that when I say cliche statements like that of like, you're your own, I don't know, jailer, or you limit yourself or whatever, I'm not saying them in a way of like, all you have to do is just like not do it anymore, because that's stupid, okay? Like, that's not how that works ever. Because it takes a lot of growth and a lot of backstory and a lot of just time and freaking focus and desire and vision to get to a point where a gate is open and you are able to walk through. But it is really important for us to recognize that, yeah, like the gate, Michaela didn't open it for me. I just was in a position where I could finally recognize that the gate was open. And I had the ability and the growth to walk through it. And so when I talk about showing up, I think that one of the things I want to, and not I think, I know. One of the things that I really want to impress on you is that I have often looked at all of the work I have done in the past and been like, well, I guess that was a waste of time, or that was a waste of money, or that was a waste of whatever, because it didn't get me what I wanted at that time. But it all leads up to you being someone who is able to walk through that gate. Every single time that you show up for yourself in a relationship, with a coach, with a book, just going to the gym, I mean, anything, right? Anytime that you show up for yourself in those individual ways, you are honestly 150% showing up for the future self that is able to then see the open gate and walk through it. And so, a good example is that I actually had a dating coach last year. But when was it actually? In 2019. Summer of 2019, I want to say. I had a dating coach. Kenna Renee, she's awesome. She's great. I would suggest her to anybody. But I got done with her, with working with her, and nothing was different. I mean, I felt good for a period of time, but then nothing was different for me. I was still dealing with someone who was not that great to me. I was still in a position where I was conforming to what this person wanted, or trying to figure out what they needed or wanted so that they would give me more attention or commitment or love. And then I ended up meeting, like my ex, and we now are fair aware of how that played out. But the fact is that when I initially looked at that time with her, I was like, oh, I wish that I could see more changes, but it is what it is. The truth is that even though I didn't immediately change, I was setting the ball rolling. I was starting to get to the place where things I thought about were, how do I set boundaries? What do I want from someone? What makes sense in terms of connecting with someone? Something that I had done with her, an exercise I had done with her was, what does that man look like spiritually? If we fight, communication wise, how he treats me. And one of the things I have just always thought is like, I just want a guy who's randomly going to surprise me with donuts. It's so simple. It's the smallest thing. We all know I love donuts. Do you know who has surprised me with donuts? No one. No one. No one has surprised me with donuts. And that's so small, right? But that's the thing that, like, I did this with her a year and a half ago, and boy number 1 didn't do it. Boy number 2 didn't do it. Freaking boy number 3 better do it. That's all I'm gonna say. But the fact is that I, at that time, didn't see a product or a change in me after working with her. But the time I spent with her started getting my gears going, started getting me thinking more, started getting me to pay attention more, started getting me to question the person I was dealing with more than I would have if I had never spent that time with Kenna. And so I feel like I hear a lot of people who will say, well, yeah, like I tried that training style and it did nothing for me. It was a waste of time, right? Oh, I paid for that coach and nothing happened. It was a waste of time. Like, we have to remind ourselves every single day, because the truth is that every single day is an opportunity for us to show up for ourselves. Even if it's just like sitting down at work and doing the same job on repeat, we are still showing up for the future self that needs that paycheck, right? That's why you go to work. when you work out, that is you showing up for your future self. When you decide that, hey, last time I got into an argument with my mom, she was upset about this, so then the next conversation when we get into an argument, I'm not going to do it like that, right? That is us showing up for our future selves, because what we're doing is, instead of glossing over something, an event, interaction, anything that took place, we are actually ingesting it and allowing it to exist within us, so that it it has some type of impact on our lives. So yeah. So when I had the experience talking to Michaela and Jada and Willow and Gammy, uh, it was weird because I hadn't been sad that day. I hadn't been sad the day before. The full transparency is that I was still communicating with my ex. And so I was not sad because, like, I'm talking about someone who, like, I can just call later, I guess, you know? But the fact is that, yeah, even just yesterday, I mean, not even just, literally yesterday, I had to delete all of his information. I deleted his number, every text, every FaceTime, every call, anything that could allow me to have his number to text or call him at any point. And I even went as far as blocking him on Facebook and removing him from my Instagram. And I did those things because I just needed the immediate, like, removal of him from my life. I will 100% unblock him. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I struggled, I will say, I struggled so hard being like, Sarah, you should 100% not block him or remove him, because this man deserves to see how amazing you are and how beautiful you are, just like every day. Just like every day he has to be like, man, oh my goodness, she's so beautiful. But you know, I that's not the motive. That's not who I want to be. The motive behind that decision is not as pure as I want it to be. So I didn't do it. I blocked him. And I'm okay with it. I feel fine. It's good, because you want to know the difference between, in the past, when I've tried to block people, or not, I shouldn't say when I've tried to block people, when I have tried to remove people from my life, and when I did it yesterday. The difference was that I had more understanding that this is not the end for me. I had more understanding of myself. I I had I blocked him, deleted his number, and then I cried. And I cried honestly with so much forgiveness and love, because I knew I was crying as, oh, I was mourning the end of a chapter. I was grieving a person that was very much a part of my life that is just, like, now in this realm does not exist, right? Like, which I know may sound harsh, but the truth is that now this is just a person who exists in the world, but they do not exist in my world. And so I grieved that. And I, like I said, I deleted his info. I grieved. And then I immediately got a message, not immediately, I very quickly received a message on my Facebook from someone who had watched me on Red Table and wanted to share that me sharing resonated with them. And we talked for a long time. She's someone who was in a similar space, or is in a similar space. She loves herself, but she's not reacting or treating herself like she's someone that she loves. And I was able to give her some information that I would give to my clients. And it was such a rewarding and connective conversation. And it immediately reminded me of why I even decided to be on the show, but also just what I believe that, like, my vision and my purpose is here. I am brutally honest, and it's because when it comes down to it, it's not about me, right? And I know you guys have probably heard me say that before, but it's just so a part of me that, like, I have to repeat it nonstop. And so the thing that, when I was thinking about recording this podcast, I was like, well, I don't want to get off track. I need to talk about, the opportunity coaching and how I got to this space. And whatnot. But the truth is that I had so many people who responded to me either in comment or um, on Instagram or Facebook messaging that heard me, and they heard their pain in my story. They heard and saw their tears on my face. And it's important to slow down and discuss this. I need you all to understand that my journey has been so long. And one of the reasons why I even started talking about mental health was because I felt like I kept seeing people online who would talk about their depression and how much they understand depression and how it was the roughest 6 months of their gosh darn lives. And it's like, good for you if it only was for 6 months, but also like, I mean, it's super valid, super valid, super valid, but also, I mean, like, girl, I have been depressed for 20 years, and so I know that most people probably understand the 20-year depression more than they understand the 6-month depression. And so the only reason why I started sharing this stuff on my Instagram was purely because of the fact that I wanted to make sure that you didn't feel alone if you're like, man, like everybody's out here just having seasonal depression and I'm freaking like, what the heck is wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. So I only say that because where I'm at right now, I like to say to my clients, I like to say to my friends, I like to say to anybody on online, I am a few steps ahead of many people. I'm a few steps behind many people as well, but I'm a few steps ahead of many people, and it's only because I've been working on myself to discover myself, to be more aware of myself, to show up for myself for so long now. I mean, it feels endless. And me and God are gonna have words about that when I get to heaven because it feels endless. But the truth is that when I was on this red table talk, I was 100% in an opportunity position to be able to receive something that I needed that one more push. I had been working my way and receiving so much cleared path of growth and self-awareness that all I needed to do was have one more opportunity to be able to become more aware, um, or just to have the permission. Because sometimes I think that we don't give ourselves permission to grow or to say goodbye, to let go. We don't give ourselves permission to be the bad guy. We don't give ourselves permission to be angry. We don't give ourselves permission to be sad. And we don't give ourselves permission to forgive. And I have been working so hard to do all of those things just to get better at I'm giving myself permission to ask for help or support. That is a giant one for me. And so all of those things had to take place. All of that growth had to take place for me to be able to sit in front of a camera, knowing that thousands of people are going to watch this episode. And I'm going to talk to the wife of the actor that I literally have cried over CDs and VHSs of because I love Will Smith and I literally was obsessed with him when I was like 12. I talked to his wife and say I'm heartbroken. What advice can you give me? I give myself permission to be sad. And I give myself permission to ask for help. And I give myself permission to be vulnerable, show up for myself by being vulnerable, and show up for others by allowing my vulnerability. It took so much work over many years to get to that space. And so it's important for me to tell you guys that there is never a wasted opportunity. Even if it feels like it took you backwards, even if it feels like it led you nowhere, every opportunity that you embark on is you showing up for your future self. Any interaction, event, learning experience, um, anything, it is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, learn more about what you want, what you don't want, what hurts, what feels uncomfortable, what feels scary, what inspires you, what makes you excited, what brings you joy. Every opportunity that out there is one for you to develop and create detail of your vision. It's you showing up for your future self. The few weeks I spent learning and working with Kenna, the dating coach, so I can find the right guy, I believe that it did lead me to meeting my ex. And that relationship, sure, it led me to hurt, led me to pain, but I also have established boundaries. I've grown a voice. I have learned that I am going to tell you that you hurt me and I'm not going to feel bad. I'm not going to allow you to shrug that off. I have developed more of Sarah Hip's woman, you know? And so the time that I spent with kind of what was 100% not wasted. And the time I spent with ex number two was not wasted. The time I spent with the random guy that I hooked up with was not wasted, because all of those unfortunate hookups 100% led to me realizing I don't want to be the person who keeps hooking up. I don't want to be the person who is using sex frivolously or to avoid intimacy. I want to be the person who meets a man and looks at the red flags. And I want to be the person who meets the man who surprises her with donuts. You know, it's just not even that hard. But I will be that person. And every single experience I've had has gotten me to this place. And so to finish off, I want to give you guys some information about how you can start showing up for yourself in a more methodical way. It wasn't until recently that I started getting really, really good at asking myself, what's the motive behind this? When I take something like a dating coach class thing, what's my motive? Is my motive I have to find my Mr. Right after I graduate from this, or then it was a waste? Because then you're going to limit what you get out of that. If I enter a relationship, is my motive, you know what, this guy is going to love me and make me happy and bring me joy and take care of me and this and that and that, and this is now the only thing that's going to bring me joy. If that's the case, then when it ends, that's going to be not fun for you specifically. When you enter into things understanding your motives, not only are you learning about yourself, you're becoming more self-aware, but you also are allowing the opportunity for true growth. If I enter a relationship and I say, you know what, I am entering this with the motive of I want to add joy to my life, I want to challenge myself, I want to grow myself, I want to enjoy different things, I want to get to know this person, I want to support them, I want to be able to bring joy to their life. And no matter what happens, I want to trust that I will grow through this process and learn more about myself and be better for it. I want to leave him better than I found him. If I enter that into a relationship with that mentality, that 100% means that even if it ends, and even if I'm not perfect, which I won't be, I still am allowing myself the opportunity to keep checking myself throughout the whole experience, to keep checking in with myself, asking myself questions, challenging myself. If my motive is to bring joy to this person and to allow him to bring joy to me, is me going on a crazy jealous tirade when nothing's happening because of my own insecurities about boyfriend number one from 8 years ago going to help that? No, the answer is no. The answer is no. So I ask myself these questions all of the time. What is my motive with what I'm texting, with what I'm posting, with what I'm saying? with allowing these reactions to take place, things like that. And the other thing that I want you to think about is, how do you show up for your future self? Day by day, little ways, big ways. Are you showing up for your future self by allowing someone access to you when they have already shown you that they are not privileged enough to have that access? Are you showing up for your future self by deciding that you will bend over backwards or extend yourself past what's comfortable for someone who won't extend themselves even past their chair? And getting away from the relationship aspect of it, do you show up for yourself with not escaping to the TV or the computer or here? Are you showing up for yourself by educating yourself and growing yourself, trying new things, having hobbies, going for a walk, getting some sun, all of those, stupid things? You need to be paying attention to that. And when you're asking yourself what your motive is, don't judge the answer, allow it to exist. Allow whatever it is to exist. If I want to send a text to someone and I'm like, "Sarah, what's your motive?" And I'm like, girl, my motive is I want him to feel like crap. Sometimes we just gotta push send on that type of text. Sometimes we have to back the train up, because what's that gonna do for us? But the fact is that when I ask myself if that's my answer, you know what? I want to poke him because I want him to pay attention to me. I don't judge it. I mean, is it like the best? I mean, you may want to rethink that, but I don't judge it, I allow it to exist, because something I will get into later is then it becomes paying attention to those types of motives and those type of toxic or negative habits, traits, self-talk, recognizing that they are a part of us, but they are not us. And that they are just sometimes an entity within us that they're begging for acknowledgement. I just realized I don't know how to end this. I should end it with saying, if you watched me on Red Table, thank you for watching that. But also, I'm sorry you had to watch me half cry. I'm actually really happy that they took out the part where I initially start getting emotional, because it's probably I'm probably not good looking when I cry. If you watched it, thank you. Thank you 1,000% for allowing me the space in your head and the time in your schedule to be heard and to be able to share my stuff. If you have questions about it, please comment, message me. If you're curious about my coaching and how I've gotten to a space where now I can walk through gates that are open, also message me or DM me. I love that connective stuff. But thank you. And I hope that something I said here resonates with you. I hope that you enjoy it. You are awesome. Keep being awesome.